welcome on in to the Ryan Ripken Show and happy hour, MLB Hot Stove Happy Hour on Wednesday nights. It's another element of the Ryan Ripken Show. We're usually live on Mondays and Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. But we know since there's so much going on with the football season, we got to get our baseball conversations in here. So, as everyone knows of our regulars, got Rocco below, Zach to my right. Gentlemen, how we doing? And we got a lot to talk about. And Rocco, you are still muted.
Yeah, that's the point, because my buddy decided to walk in my door and just take his time, so it's freezing out. You know, the door's going right now, as you can see. Might be getting robbed, who knows? But here we are. It's great, and thank you for
the background
doing the intro this time, Rip, because I didn't want to do it. I wasn't sure, so thank you for taking the words right out of my mouth. It's great to be here. Great to be back. Great to talk some baseball on a cold day in Baltimore in January. Gotta love it.
Yeah. I've actually been told that it's tropical in Baltimore because of maybe the cold impacting another sport. But it's been it's good to be back. It's good to be back. I had the one day where I was not a human, and now we're back. So talking ball, baby. Where else would you rather be?
For sure. Exactly. And Rocco's getting rated on the live stream. Yes, that is the case here.
That would be so funny.
Live.
Someone doxed me when they found out I was a Steelers fan. So here we are. It's happening.
Yeah, you know what? And no one's fault but your own. But guys, let's get to it. We got the 4 burners, 4 different topics that we want to talk about. And Rock, why don't you run our audience through what we got on the docket here tonight?
Yeah, guys, we got 4 burners coming up. As always, if you're new to the show, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And we'll talk about the background of this show right now. Hot Stove Happy Hour. What's a stove have? Usually 4 burners. Burner 1, we're going to talk about Jeff Hoffman, not with the Orioles. They decided to reportedly offer this guy a pretty significant deal, and one that it would seem like would put Mike Elias and the O's management in the history books as far as like recent signings in Baltimore. I'm kidding about that, but Jeff Hoffman did not end up signing with the Orioles. It's the other team. And Jared, holy crap, man, can you stop it with the keys? Anyway, Jeff Hoffman, Orioles, didn't happen. Blue Jays he ended up signing with, for once, Toronto, not a fraud here. So it's very surprising. Burner 2, we're going to talk about the pitching market. Corbin Burnes heading to Arizona. A place is very near and dear to his heart, and you'll find out why if you didn't already know. Burner 3, Alex Bregman. We thought he was going to sign with the Red Sox. Clearly not the case. When is a deal going to get done, if any deal is going to happen? And is there a new team in the mix or a potential team in the NL that could be getting Alex Bregman, a team that hails from the Windy City? Then last but not least, Burner 4, is Ichiro Suzuki a unanimous Hall of Famer? Can we unanimously say it before we start the show? 3, 2, 1.
We're not. What's the point of having the burner if we say our answer?
Anyway, here we go.
Some of the teaser previews. Oh, goodness.
And on that note, the Hot Stove Happy Hour presented by the Ryan Ripken Show is off. Let's get into it, people. Jeff Hoffman, fellas, a guy that Phillies fans really fell in love with last year. He was a fan favorite, a heck of a pitcher. And like, they really like this guy a lot. And, you know, guy that you can add to the bullpen, he'd be a solid arm for you. And the Orioles were allegedly in talks with Jeff Hoffman and had a deal that was upwards of $40 million to bring this guy here to Baltimore. Didn't happen because the Orioles said, you know, they flagged something on his physical. And everyone thinks right now the Orioles were the only team to say no to Jeff Hoffman. But then it comes out that the Braves were as well. So Jeff Hoffman, we'll get into it in a little bit. He's got some, didn't really mince words when it came to talking about Baltimore and the Orioles not taking a chance on him and bringing him here. But Rip, did the Orioles, I guess, avoid something bad here when it comes to Jeff Hoffman? Because obviously it's a risk if you bring him in and the physical gets flagged. But this is a guy that had really great success in Philadelphia last season.
I think it's a layered conversation. I think it's a really good conversation to have here about Jeff Hoffman because you're right. Decorated, was one of the sought out relief pitchers here this offseason. And yeah, it looked like a deal was in place. And earlier in the week and last week, you know, touched a little bit on how it's disappointing when something like this falls through because, you know, you have an agreement in place, you're feeling good. But then, you know, your staff who you hire and trust to make these medical decisions is saying, hey, we're not comfortable with this. But Zach, I think that to take this to the next level, it's not just an Orioles thing here.
Yeah.
It was another team. The Atlanta Braves also flagged him. But the reason why we're talking about this today, and we'll continue to evaluate it, is that Hoffman had his press conference with the media today virtually. And Zach, there were some comments made specifically of kind of showcasing what we were talking about. So can you detail a little bit, Zach, on what Hoffman is saying was the difference between the Blue Jays physical and the one he had with, say, the Baltimore Orioles?
Yeah, so pretty much comes out today. Keegan Matheson, who covers the Blue Jays for MLB.com, was kind of detailing throughout the press conference what was being said. And he brought up that Jeff Hoffman, pretty much he called his physical results a surprise and said he didn't agree with them. And he then added, the Blue Jays see me for what I am. I'd rather be in a place like that anyway. He then later goes on to talk about, they ask, hey, does this give you extra motivation, stuff like that? With the Orioles, he then says, yes, you can add them to the list. Definitely, I think one of those situations where, yeah, you're going to be mad if, he clearly agreed to sign with the Orioles. That's where he, it's not like the Orioles offered him something. They had to do a physical beforehand, all that stuff. It seems like this was a done deal. He was coming to Baltimore. It was all but over. And then the physical gets in the way. So apparently, according to them, same thing popped up for Toronto. They saw the exact same thing, but he said that the Blue Jays go more off of how the player feels rather than the MRI, which brings us back to Rip's point of, hey, is it unfortunate that Jeff Hoffman failed his physical and isn't with the Orioles? Yeah. But Rip, to your point, if he's going to fail the physical and you pass him anyway, and you sign him anyway, why did you bring in the doctors for the physical to ask for their recommendation? Why did you hire these guys to be like, hey, in your professional opinion, is this worth it? So it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe the Blue Jays doctors are sitting there going, because same thing popped up. Maybe they're going, hey, he feels good. He said it doesn't bother him. Let's go. But the only way that we can tell, Rocco, when you talk about, is this something the Orioles will regret? Is this maybe a miss? Is this whatever? We don't know for another year or two. If unfortunately, and I don't hope it happens, if Hoffman is on and off the IL all year next year with, shoulder, elbow, whatever it is, and he doesn't get in his groove and can't really help, then the Orioles got away with one. But if he goes and he's perfectly fine, then it's like, damn, so it really wasn't that big. So only time will tell.
And to just, before we get into Rip, because he's going to have the most, just says some fantastic things on the baseball side. What a guy he is. Just value his opinion so much. Try not to get fired here, people. That's a deal. Jeff Hoffman had a 2.17 ERA last season, 89 strikeouts, 10 saves. He was great in relief for the Phillies. And on top of that, he was an all-star. But to your point, Zach, if someone asks me how I feel, if I have one of the biggest events of my life coming up and I'm feeling a little under the weather, I might lie and say, I'm feeling all right. Like, I'm going to go. If you have $40+ million on the table and they simply ask you, and I really hope for the Blue Jays' sake, they did more than just ask the guy how he feels rather than just check out the MRI and say, oh.
Blue Jays have been striking out a lot of free agents. Maybe they were just like, hell, you want to come here?
But here's my thing. And you know me, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Orioles did great regardless of what happens. It's just not the person I am. I'm not saying we are, but it's just like going to try to tell you how it is with this stuff. With Jeff Hoffman, man, would you rather the Orioles sign a guy that has injury history, has an MRI flagged, when they have their closer, who is one of the best in baseball, coming back from Tommy John surgery, when they've had injury history in the past? And unfortunately, you can't help it. But I'd rather them not do this, flag the MRI and say, you know what, buddy, we're not going to take the risk. Because like you said, if he's done on the IL, off the IL this season, it's like you can't deal with that as the O's. And Rip, I know you're going to say some good stuff here about this, but what are your thoughts? Did they dodge a bullet? Would you have liked them to bring in Jeff Hoffman, or do you think there's better options out there bullpen wise?
Well, I mean, again, stuff wise, when you look at the guy, and if you knew that you were to get that Jeff Hoffman for the next 3 years, any team would sign up for that. if you saw the Jeff Hoffman for that. But this is the case here, and you look at go back to with the doctors, and I want to point something out about him saying they cared more about how I feel. So maybe this gives you guys a little bit more insight to this when it comes to MRIs and injuries for players. Different organizations are going to have different philosophies or how they're going to talk about it, because some things that could be already discovered with imaging, that could already kind of been there for a little bit. Now, if you're having a physical every year, obviously you're going to have a better indication. Okay, are things deteriorating or what's happening? But in this case for Hoffman, my guess is the Orioles and the Braves were going, we don't like the habit that we're seeing here. And you're saying you're feeling good, which we get, but what we're seeing over the years is just becoming concerning. And so then the report was that the Orioles changed their deal for Hoffman, right, Zach? So they changed the deal. So there's that case.
Yeah, Baltimore Banner, Annie Koska put out in his article that we don't know what the deal was, but the Orioles did not take their deal back. They readjusted it to what they felt with the injury. They thought it was his worth. And by that time, apparently he had already re-engaged in negotiations elsewhere, and he ended up in Toronto.
And the last thing to say about the comments then about him saying with the Blue Jays weren't as worried, they were worrying about the feel. I agree that is definitely something that organizations can look at and go, you know what? Is it bothering you? Because the options are, what are you going to do? Is it, do you play through it and you just hope it keeps going? And then eventually, that's something you're going to have to handle down the road. Or is it something right now where you say, hey, you know what? We're done. So the case for Jeff Hoffman, it could be two different ways. He might not have an injury whatsoever, and the Blue Jays are going to reap the benefits, and so is Jeff Hoffman. And that's something they're saying right now we're willing to take. And Rocco, to your point, if you're Baltimore, because of their situations, they wanted to go something that's more of a quote-unquote sure thing. And I'm not going to say that Kittredge is more of a sure thing, but he's had his own arm issues. But clearly, he bounced back from his arm situation, had a great year last year, and then it's a one-year deal where you can move on. Someone was going to pay Hoffman that price given this risk, and the Blue Jays did. And I'll tell you what, the last thing, he was going to be ready to face the Orioles. I guarantee you, teams, players, when they want to make a point of like, hey, I'm going to show you, I would not be surprised. It's going to go two different ways. He's going to either light up the Orioles or the Orioles are going to light him up. There's nothing in between. But players take that personally, and Jeff Hoffman just added the Braves and the Orioles onto that list.
But you know what? Before we move on, I think what this says, number one, I'd like the Orioles to try to bring in more bullpen options other than Philadelphia Phillies or former Phillies, because it's like hit or miss right there. But it's like it's becoming a trend. It's like Kimbrel, Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and now you go after Jeff Hoffman. It's like there are other teams out there in Major League Baseball you could try to make deals with. They're bringing their former guys. I think Mike Elias knows that, but let's just just weigh the options as well. But I think what this says about the Orioles, Rip and Zach, is that they are not afraid to spend the money. And we're sitting there, and I've knocked them because it's been, you're waiting for liftoff. When's liftoff going to happen? I'm not saying a Jeff Hoffman move would be liftoff for the Orioles, but to throw $40 million in a multi-year deal at a guy, to bring Kittredge in for a 1 year, $10 million deal, they are spending money.
With an option.
Money with the option. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying it can be multi-year. So it is a potential long-term investment.
But that's what I'm saying. This seems like, again, the moves have been calculated. Mike Elias has a plan going forward. And you know what? As hard as it is to do sometimes with anything, when you have to be patient, you just got to trust what this guy's doing. When we get to spring training, hopefully, again, that pitching staff starting rotation has another arm, big name added to it. In the bullpen, same thing. But it's a wait and see kind of thing. And, right around the corner with spring training and pitchers and catchers reporting. Cannot wait. Let's move on, though, to the second burner of the night on that hot stove. And that is, it's a hot one out in the desert, out in the valley. That's where it heats up. And that's where Corbin Burnes is headed. And you know what, for this, maybe you do know that Corbin Burnes calls Arizona home. Maybe you didn't know that in the past, because there are a lot of reporters out there in Arizona that had no clue, and they were asking him about it. What's the tie here to Arizona? Why did you want to come here so bad? Because it's home for the guy. He had said when he was playing with Milwaukee, with the Brewers in his press conference today, I believe it was 2018, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, him and his wife bought a place out there because that is where the Brewers held their spring training, out in Arizona. He's lived in Phoenix. He's lived in other parts in Arizona. And now his wife and him have a 3-year-old child and twins as well. Corbin Burnes, he said this in his press conference. He said, you know what? And I respect the hell out of it. And Orioles fans, you could be pissed off that he's with another team and the Orioles weren't able to lock him down. But I'm telling you, I think the Orioles did what they could to try to get him. I don't think Corbin Burnes was ever going to leave this deal on the table going to Arizona for any, amount of money. Obviously, he's getting paid a lot. Scott Boras is his agent. But his thing he said that really stuck out to me was, I don't want to have to FaceTime my kids when they're going to school. I want to be able to drop them off and say, goodbye and be there with them in person. Because 162 game season, man, you're going to have to do a lot of FaceTiming because breaking news, that's during school time for children, no matter what age. So for Corbin Burnes, it's family first. Obviously, the money's great there in Arizona. But what are your guys' thoughts on the signing, what he said in the press conference? I'm sure you both got to watch it.
Actually, guess what? We're all going to watch the press conference because your guy was able to pull up a clip here. And it's Scott Boras and Corbin Burnes' opening comments to this press conference. So we're going to play that clip for you guys, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. So this was today.
Really putting their family first. You always have the good fortune, you hope, to be competitive and also take care of the needs of your family and to do it at home. And I'm very grateful to Ken, who took a phone call and then took 10 other phone calls and really did something, I think, that had a lot to do with not only his baseball team, but his community, and understood what Corbin and Brooks' goals were. And I'm very pleased because when you have twins and you have a 3-year-old and you watch and you always remember as a parent what a family has to go through at those ages, I'm so happy they get to stay at home and do it.
Like Scott said, kind of the family aspect of this was huge for us. And when we heard that this was going to be an opportunity, we had to jump at it. And we're grateful that we got it done. Thank you for everyone for being here today, family, Brooke and the kids. Obviously, it's been a long ride with the twins being born last year in June, traveling back and forth. This was something we've been dreaming about. So I'm glad that we could do this and what's best for us. So thank you guys, and hopefully we get to enjoy the day.
So right there, the reason why I wanted to play Boris's part first is you heard him say, well, I appreciate Ken for not one call, 10 calls, and trying to get something in the works, because it was clear as day. It was not about who was going to be the highest bidder for money, because I do really believe it would have been another team. But for Corbin Burnes, it mattered to him being home. And again, I was really trying to tell people this, Zach. And when people say, well, you want to go chase a ring, you want to be competitive. Some players, it's not just in the MLB. Sometimes it's even in the NFL. You're going to go to where the highest dollar is, or you want to go where you want to go. And it's a choice that you have to make. Do you want to go where is best for your life moving forward? And only a few players are going to be able to have this opportunity. Corbin is one of the few players, when you look at it, that is so good. And there's so many teams that would be willing to offer that. So there's probably, if he really wanted in that range, there's still going to be a handful of teams that were going to bid for his services. But he wanted to go to the one, and he was willing to take less to go to that one. And that team goes, okay, here's the number we'll get it to. And he says, I'm in. So Corbin goes there. And then the other thing Corbin was saying, big for his family. And again, I want to just reemphasize this. It's a great thing that he's prioritizing his family. But in no part of that opening statement, I know later on talking about the excitement of the team and what they can accomplish and all of that. But the first priority was not saying I'm chasing the World Series. The first priority was I get to continue my career, and I get to do it being with my family for essentially I only have to go on the road for 81 games. Every other time I'm going to be right here, which is such a different impact for guys. So, I mean, Zach, and people can say the Orioles, well, why didn't they plan accordingly? They're trying to plan accordingly, but look at all these deals that are going out there now. And the only one that I really thought they could have had Garrett Crochet, they traded for him. The other name that's on the list now, Jack Flaherty, which, you know, the price tag for him is going to be interesting. And then Roki Sasaki, I'm sorry, everyone. If you saw the list, he's not on – the Orioles are not on his top 3.
Really thought we had him. Damn. Really thought Roki was number 1. But real fast, with the Corbin Burnes stuff, if he wanted to go to a team that he felt had a great chance of winning the World Series, that's not the NL West team he would have gone to. If he thought, okay, I want to go with the most money, we have reports stating that's not where the best offer was. Corbin Burnes wanted to go home. And Rip, you've said it a million times. The only thing that was keeping him from going to Arizona was waiting for Arizona to give him the price he was hoping for. It wasn't going to be bigger than everyone. It wasn't going to be this massive deal. It was, hey, these people offer me 240, 250. You give me 200, 210, where it's a deal. They did that, opt out after 3. His kids are a little older. Maybe there's some different discussions going on after 2-3 years, but now there's that option. So I just think overall, it was always going to be Arizona. If they put a competitive offer on the table, that's where he was going to go. So, yeah, at this point, especially for the Orioles, it's what's next. Because I think, talk about planning accordingly. Michael Elias isn't stupid. They've had these conversations with Corbin. They know where he wanted to go. They knew. If you think Elias and them were shocked by Corbin going to Arizona, I don't know what to tell you, because they knew damn well if Arizona was competitive, that was it's why the Giants were getting so frustrated. The Giants had a massive offer on the table for days, weeks, and they were publicly getting frustrated of, why are you not signing? Like, what's the holdup? Everyone knew Arizona was the team. If Arizona was able to put it out there, that's where he was going.
Burnes had, his wife had twins before the All-Star game, and there was not rumors, but people didn't know it was up in the air as to whether or not he was going to play because he wanted to spend time with his kids. And not many guys, he ended up doing it. And he said, my wife wanted me to play in this game. It's a great opportunity to not only play in it, but to start the All-Star game as well. So he got to do that, but his kids were obviously on his mind. And there was some thought into, all right, maybe I don't go to the All-Star game. Maybe I stay home and, to spend this quality time in a grueling season when I don't get a lot of off time and I got to go back and forth to Arizona. So, you know what? Good for him. And the Diamondbacks, telling you what, man, they're not a bad team by any means. What, they're 2 years removed from being in a World Series. Obviously, one they lost to the Rangers, but in their staff, you look at Zach Gallen, you look at Brandon Pfaadt, you look at Merrill Kelly, you look at a guy like I know Jordan Montgomery didn't have the best year last season. Wasn't that great?
Good rotation.
He just opted in.
Rotation.
He opted in to his contract. So you look at the staff they have and the potential there, and you bring in a guy like Burnes, not on the front end, the ace, the number 1. That is, I mean, I don't think they're going to be bad this year, man. And I know
that's very competitive. They're going to be very competitive.
Yeah, and that's when I say, if he wanted to win a World Series, he wouldn't go there. It's because you're competing with the Dodgers and the Padres, and just the chances of if you wanted to go give yourself the best chance, you probably would have. If you were going to the NL West, you probably wouldn't have picked the Diamondbacks as that NL West team that you're like, that's where I'm getting a ring.
No, and I completely agree. And we did bring up a guy like Roki Sasaki on here and talked about the teams he had narrowed down. And I want to talk about that a little more before we move on to Burner 3, because this is something we wanted to talk about in Burner 2. So Sasaki's got 3 teams that are reportedly finalists that he's going to sign with one of them. The two are obvious. And the third's obvious as well, because they always find a way to just get their name included.
Incredible.
It's insane. Incredible work by their PR, whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know. It's incredible. So you got the Dodgers, heavy hitter, big name. You got the Padres, West Coast team. We said Roki's probably going to stay on the West Coast due to, the connections there and the change in time. And then the freaking Blue Jays, man. Always. So Jeff Passan tweets that out, and first thing that comes to my mind is, all right, so we have 2 finalists, not 3, because there's no way in hell, I don't give a shit if I end up on Freezing Cold Takes, that Roki Sasaki is going to sign with the Toronto Blue Jays. If he does, I'll have to jump in the harbor, freezing cold. I will, because I just don't see it happening. I think this is the Blue Jays being the Blue Jays again. Congratulations, you signed Jeff Hoffman. Congratulations on that. But there are not big names that go and sign with the Blue Jays, and they are always included in these reports. Shohei Ohtani, Corbin Burnes, Roki Sasaki, Juan Soto too. Wasn't he on the list as well?
Juan Soto.
Yeah. Knock it the hell off, Toronto. He's not going there. If he does, it'll be insane. It's not happening. Just stop it. Finalists and all this shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, okay, they're at least they're trying.
Yeah,
they are trying. Can the Blue Jays got Hoffman, but maybe one time they'll land somebody right there because clearly people like them enough, but it's not like it's. I don't even know what analogy will be in this case. Essentially, it's like, well, we really like you. We really like you, but if our first 2 options fall through, you're ours. That's they're the third choice.
Yeah.
It seems like in almost everything. They're not someone's first choice. And that's the hard part. For Roki, though, the Dodgers sent the Monstars for an interview for him to meet with them. Mm-hmm. I'd personally rather see him go to San Diego, and just kind of I think it'd be good for the sport, good battle.
Dodgers can't get in the way with this, man. They can't.
But I do think development-wise, him going to the Dodgers would be very electric. I will say that. So
I don't know. The Dodgers have been dealing with a lot of Tommy John. Tommy Juan has been very apparent in their development over the past few years.
Well, then San Diego. Yeah, could be San Diego.
So I hope it's San Diego.
Yeah. And all of this move right here, essentially, when Roki makes his move, then I think we're going to see Jack Flaherty sign. And then some of these other pitchers that, even though the market's done there, but if one of those bigger teams, I'd say the Padres, they feel like they miss out on somebody. I think they're going to be aggressive for somebody else. So I think we're going to see some movement. But, guys, the one thing I told you I'm concerned about with all pitchers is that it is January 15th. And I would hate to see any pitchers not sign before spring training because when you're behind the 8 ball there, it's hard to get acclimated, especially when you're going somewhere new. So be interesting to see.
Look, case in point with Jordan Montgomery. How long did they wait for him to sign last season? Or was it Snell or was it both? Was it both the Boris guys? That was the whole thing. Waiting and waiting and waiting. And that definitely sets you back. You see it all the time. I don't want to talk too much shit about Toronto. It's not about the city. Love the people there. They're great. And you know what? If I'm a fan of the Blue Jays, I am happy that my team is at least making the effort, whether they sign someone or not. To be in consideration or even a team or a finalist, I know it's like a fraudulent look. It's like, I sent you guys the meme the other day. It's the military guys that are about to breach a house and they're lined up one by one with their guns. And then you have the clown in the middle. That is what the Blue Jays are when it comes to these finalists of teams. But like you said, Rip, maybe one day they'll sign someone big. They'll make their fan base happy and things will be good again there. So
all I'm going to say about Blue Jays fans feeling happy right now, so I'm not going to say they should feel happy. I'd be confused as hell if I was a Blue Jays fan because you got one report going, Blue Jays are, finalists for Roki Sasaki. Okay, awesome. We're going to try to win. This is awesome. Just signed Jeff Hoffman. Oh, Anthony Santander. Rumors, that's still going through. And then you look at it's like, oh, Mets really want Vladdy and are putting together a package to acquire him. And then as a fan, you're like, wait, we're getting guys, but we're getting rid of our best player? Yeah. And it's just like the Blue Jays are in this insanely weird spot where they're like, it's like they're daring the rest of Major League Baseball. They're like, we'll blow this up right now if you want us to. We will tear this thing to the ground if one of you tells us to, but we're also going to be in on every free agent. They're like, well, we're going to try to form a super team, but if we don't, we will tear this shit to the ground faster than you ever seen it. It is a very interesting situation because you see it's like Bo Bichette and Vladdy might be gone by the trading deadline, but we're a finalist for Sasaki. We're in on Juan Soto and all of them, so we're trying. It's like, what's going on there? What's going on in Toronto?
I'm glad you brought up Santander, Zach, in the Blue Jays, just talking about them, because that's going to lead us to burner 3. And we're talking about the heavy hitters, the boppers, whatever you want to call these guys. But Anthony Santander is one of them. Guy hit 40+ home runs last season. Orioles fans would love to have him back, but it would have to be for the right price at this point in time. And I think that ship has sailed. But again, MLB offseason gets weird, and you never truly know. But the name that Anthony Santander has been linked to is none other than the Toronto Blue Jays. But here's what I'm saying with Santander, Rip. It's what the hell's holding up this deal? Like, what is the rest of MLB waiting for? And I know we're seeing it with pitchers as well, but with the Santanders, with the Alex Bregmans we're going to talk about, and with the Pete Alonsos. Number one, what's holding it up? And number two, when are all these guys going to sign? Like, can you look into your magic ball and see?
Yeah, well, first off, sorry. I hit a ball for Ollie, so if you hear a dog that's like whimpering or overexcited, this ball is so loud. It is so loud.
It can't be louder than.
Oh no, it's loud.
My buddy, he freaking opens the door, and I told him, I was like, "Hey man, like if you need to come in, like just walk by the camera." He told me he was army crawling on the floor, and that's why there was so much noise going on, and that's why the door was open. I'm like, you're a psychopath. I was like, walk by, walk past, and get the hell out. That's all.
Ollie's freaking out over here. Hey, dude.
Oh, no. What a guy.
Because I have it hidden up here, but he knows where it is.
Just throw it.
It's not hidden. It's a horrible hide job.
Throw it. Yeah. Yeah. Good job.
It's loud.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go downstairs. Go get mom. There he goes.
Anyway,
back to the conversation. He's been the whole time he's been hitting me while I've been right here.
That's what you kept looking at? You were just like,
I kept looking at because he kept hitting me. It's like, give me the ball. Give me the ball. Anyway, in this case, take away the word ball. In this case for Santander, it's like, give me the bag. Who's going to give me the bag for Anthony Santander? And look, there's a clip that was on MLB Network, and former big leaguer Cliff Floyd even talked about it with Santander. We'll start here, and then we'll move into Bregman. To say that we're still surprised that a bat like him is still available, yeah, I think it is pretty shocking. And Cliff Floyd, he didn't hold anything back on how he feels about this situation with Anthony. So let me play that clip for you guys right now.
Santander and Flaherty open to short-term offers. Is that, in a way, waving the white flag where you were too far away from the first day of spring training?
I don't understand how Santander is still out there. It makes me sick, almost to my stomach. And you know why? Because when we always talk, we're talking about the good guys today, right? Talking about the nicest guys.
Nice guys.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice guys. I got to spring training now 30 for 15. This is the nicest dude I've ever met other than Sean Casey in a uniform. I'm being real. And this is 7 o'clock in the morning. When I actually thought that clubhouse needed a little spark, needed some music, and I'm not knocking Brandon Hyde and what he runs his camp. I'm just saying these dudes are still young. They're still trying to find their way in the league. And this dude is as solid as you come. Punt the average, all right? Because the league average was around baseball is 238. So you can punt that. I'm talking about production. I'm talking about middle of the order. I'm talking about a guy that's not going to hurt you on defense. He's a switch hitter. He's young still as far as the game. 30 years old.
Got a cannon for an arm.
Got a cannon. You can put him in left field. Why is he still out there? You can't tell me there's 16, 17 that's on the cusp of winning that don't need this guy in this lineup. So what's the problem when we can go across? You and I can look through our phone and pull up 7 contracts that don't make no sense. And this guy is sitting at home giving out deals that's going to make it favorable for him to be in some uniform with 30 days left before camp.
I mean, I'm looking at America.
So right there, you're hearing it, and I'm with them. I'm shocked that a team that needs a bat hasn't signed him yet. But let me explain the thought process here and break it down in ways where, 1, why isn't he signed? And then 2, why I think he should be signed. But let's start with the reason why he probably hasn't. 1, you're trying to figure out what teams are going to still be in. The market kind of changed when I would consider even some corner bats, like when Christian Walker signed with the Astros, and people are projecting how Santander is going to be down the line. I'm sure that they're looking at how long do they view Santander as an outfielder. I think that's definitely in the conversation. And then the second thing is, and I know that Cliff's saying, screw the batting average, which, look, you hit 40 homers, and you drive in 100 RBIs, that fits in place for a lineup. The problem is that there's concern, I guess, with teams. How long is that going to last? So maybe we'll sign a 2 or 3 year deal with Tony, not a 4 or 5, right? So that's where I think the conversation is. Now, a reason why I think he should be signed is for that exact reason of the production right now.
Yep.
The average, Tony's never been a big average guy, never has been. I don't expect that to change. He chases pitches. What's his biggest strength is hitting pitches out of the zone is also one of his weaknesses, but that's what you live with. He's been the Orioles' best hitter production-wise the last 3 seasons in home runs, RBIs, extra base hits. The thing with Tony, when you're looking at it, each team, you need to assemble a lineup with guys. And the reason what I'm saying is you can't have so many guys that are, and I'd like to say this, Tony's fair to say, like more all or nothing.
Yeah.
He gets a hold of one. Great. He can get very streaky, but you need guys that can turn the lineup over, can get on base at a high clip, and then you need your big boppers. Tony's your big bopper. And there's plenty of teams out there, what Cliff was alluding to, that need that oomph. And that's why I'm surprised, because there's not a lot of guys besides Pete Alonso. I'd put those two in that category because I think Bregman's a hybrid. Pete and Santander are the 2 bats left out there of going, damn, like upside here for bringing the boom to the lineup is there.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. And if I'm Houston, I want him back. I would love to see him in Baltimore, but Houston Astros, what else did you want? If you were competing right now, go get a guy that you were giving a very friendly park over there in Houston. I think he lights it up and puts up 40 again for the Astros.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it's a very interesting time for these all or nothing players, because we've seen in baseball, and I think that's the issue with, a Alonso and a Santander right now, because, we've entered this age of like, it's all the advanced stats. It's, is he getting on base at a high enough clip to have this sort of strikeout percentage? And I feel like a lot of times we get away from the, it's that joke of like, the stat nerd looking at the rainy clouds. And then you got the, that boy nice, looking at the sunshine. You don't need stats or these metrics to look at Anthony Santander play and say, that guy can help me win baseball games. Offensively, defensively. I'll say it. I'll be the first to admit, he doesn't make it look smooth, but the guy gets it done in the outfield. He might make a web gem because he misplayed it a little at first, but he's going to catch the ball. He might not time it up right, but he's going to get it done. Like, I agree, Ryan. His perfect fit right now is Houston. If we're talking about all things considered, a great organization where you can win, you can get a good contract, and you can put up insane numbers in that just people call New York a tiny ballpark. Minute Maid, that, the Crawford boxes, that is a very tiny ballpark. So I think it's one of those things where I'm shocked that he's not signed. Tony was one of those guys I thought we were going to see during the winter meetings go. I was genuinely shocked when he was not off the board at the winter meetings.
Glad you brought up Houston, Zach, because he's hit a few out there over the course of his career. So it's I completely agree there with you on that. And then the fact of, the stats you can't measure. I think that not necessarily the clutch factor, but the big moment factor. When you need a big moment from a guy at the plate, Anthony Santander is your guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. And then in the field, same thing. Like, yes, like you talked about, it doesn't always look the prettiest. Those diving catches sometimes look like they hurt or like he falls the wrong way. Then he gets up and fires it. Like he's the type of guy that you want on your team for those big moments, whether it's defensively, whether it's offensively. The guy can flat out hit for power. Rip, you said it. Yeah. It's like, yes, he can be streaky at times. And when he's in the bad streaky, you don't, it's not a guy that's going to bring much to the table. He's not going to hit for contact, he's hitting to beat the piss out of that baseball. But when he gets a hold of it, it's incredible.
But that's the thing is, and teams need to have that, and it's not for every team. And look, we hear what people say, and I would agree. If you have everyone that does that type of role, your lineup's not going to be successful, just because you have to have different elements of your team. And again, it comes to who can get on base, who can turn the lineup over, who are good role guys, and then who are your boppers. And there's enough teams in Major League Baseball that don't have the bopper part right now, and that's where Santander fits in. But so then, like, goes into the hybrid player here, Rock, and that's Alex Bregman.
Yeah.
Because, dude, and this list that we're about to see about Alex Bregman is so fascinating to me, how many good players are still left on this list. But Bregman, to me, is one that can make a team be not just a contending team to make the playoffs, but can take them over the top to be a World Series contender. And recently, both John Morosi was commenting on it, but then manager of the Boston Red Sox, Alex Cora, that spent time when he was in Houston with Alex Bregman, talked about what could be a fit, but maybe not what everyone's thinking about for Alex Bregman. So I'm going to play that clip for you guys, and we're going to react on the other side.
Available. Here's the list. It's a pretty strong list. There are a number of difference-making players when you think about Pivetta, who, of course, is one of their returning players, but let's focus right now on someone on the left-hand side of the screen in Alex Bregman. Now, Bregman played for current Red Sox manager Alex Cora when they were both in Houston. Let's listen to what Alex Cora said when Tom Caron of Nesson asked about how potentially and hypothetically Bregman could fit into the Red Sox infield and if Rafael Devers remains the Red Sox third baseman of the present and future.
Rafi Devers is our third baseman. Alex was a Gold Glover at third base, and we all know that. But in 2017, I had a conversation with him, and he needed to play third because he was Correa and Altuve. I always envisioned Alex as a Gold Glover second baseman. His size, the way he moves. It felt kind of like you will be a second baseman, but he has played third base at a high level, so we'll see where he ends up.
What Bregman would mean for the Boston Red Sox and how well he would fit in that part of the diamond and in that lineup, how great he would complement the lefty bat of Rafael Devers. The swing would play there, Matty and Harold. I think that Bregman, in so many ways, an ideal fit for the Red Sox if he's willing to play second base because of their commitment long-term to Rafael Devers.
So really fascinating on this case, because that was the one element that people hadn't talked about, of maybe putting Devers over to first. But how about no. Cora's saying we're keeping Devers at third, but the comments that they made, that they viewed Alex Bregman as a second baseman for Houston, but because they had Altuve already and Correa, we're going to put him at third. Keep in mind, Alex Bregman was a shortstop in college.
Yeah.
So then they moved him off of that.
Gold Tigers.
Yeah. Yep. That, Coach O right there. Wrong sport, but same thing. How they say it down
vibe.
there? How they say it down there?
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Exactly. So for Alex, though, Alex Cora talking about Bregman, look, it makes a lot of sense. And it kind of indicates, and it opens up the thought process. Would the Red Sox be willing to give a bigger deal and Alex move over to second? Because if that happens, I'll tell you what, man, I thought that the Red Sox would be contending in the American League East this year, and they were a team that I would, between the Yankees and the Red Sox, I think have the higher upside over the next 5. If they get Bregman in this infield, this Red Sox team becomes not only contending this year, they become very dangerous. Alex Bregman's one of those guys. Looking at him in the lineup, that's why I said he's a hybrid. The dude can hit for some power, but he doesn't strike out much, and he's going to find a way to get on base, and he plays good defense. I'm surprised that there isn't more guys or more teams that are willing to go out and get him. And if it was me, Boston, I'm making the deal, but it seems like, Zach, Zach maybe go next. Seems like there's some pushback on getting a long-term deal and that money. So maybe he has to go to the short-term deal.
Yeah. And that's kind of the risk that these are not even risk. That's kind of where we sit at this part of the MLB offseason every single year. It's these higher end contracts, the Pete Alonsos, the Alex Bregmans, the Anthony Santanders, they sit there and go, okay, we're not getting the long-term deal we want. Maybe it's time to look shorter deal. When it comes to the Red Sox, Rip, I agree. I have no clue what they're doing. Why he is not already in Boston makes no sense to me. I get the whole, they don't want to maybe give up all those years, that big of a contract. But if you're able to, with the young core they're building, the upside coming through their system, you already added Crochet, obviously, this offseason. If you add Bregman to throw at second base, it feels like this Red Sox team, like you said, they jump a lot of people in the American League this offseason from team you're sitting saying, yeah, they'll hover around 500. They have a good upside, though. You know, they got some players, to you're looking at it and you're like, this team could win the AL. And I'm not just saying, you know, go on a lucky streak. They could be the 1 seed in the AL, win 100+ games, and then win the World Series. That's how much talent is on that Red Sox team, especially if you add a guy like Bregman. You know, they would be the perfect mixture of, you have this up-and-coming talent mixed in with already high upside, you know, big-time players that you know are going to produce. And it gives you that ability to where if you hit the perfect storm and the young guys produce and the, you know, more established guys continue, it's a very damn good team.
Yeah, and it almost makes too much sense for Bregman to sign with the Red Sox. But the question is, I don't think if the Red Sox won him in Boston, is Alex Bregman willing to play second base? Is he willing to swallow his pride and play a different position? Because I know that baseball players, Rip, and you do too, they're very prideful about where they play and how they play and what they do. And I know it wasn't to this magnitude. It was a much higher magnitude back then, but you look at the Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, when he came into New York. And again, not comparing Alex Bregman endeavors to Jeter and A-Rod, but you look at that and it was like, you're going to play third base. We have our shortstop. With Bregman, it's like the conversation is, you're going to play second base. We have our guy over here on the hot corner. So we'll see what the Red Sox end up doing. I think it would be a perfect fit. And to your point, Zach, yeah, it would leapfrog them above a ton of teams, because you've seen the moves that the Red Sox have made in the offseason. They have been active this offseason, one of the most active teams when you're talking about a Major League Baseball. And you talk about the Garrett Crochet deal. Yeah, that was great. And you talk about potentially getting Bregman, but like smaller moves that are going to help in the long run. Like smaller than a Crochet would be Walker Buehler, but getting him and adding him to the staff is big. Then you get Aroldis Chapman. Then you go out and get Patrick Sandoval. They're a team that looks like they're looking to be World Series or bust, as a lot of teams strive to do. But you get a guy like Bregman, I feel like you're not in the driver's seat, but you're in a pretty damn good position going forward when it comes to trying to get there.
I want to make a point about that when you're saying about some of the other acquisitions. Like the big name that they got was Crochet in the trade, right? But their staff as a whole, and Tanner Houck's a very good pitcher, and they have pieces. But I would say their starting staff is very comparable to Baltimore, where they have some exciting parts, but then these veteran pitchers, what do? So if they elevate and they pitch really well, Boston's going to play better. But I would still take Baltimore's bullpen right now over Boston's.
Yeah.
The thing that can set Boston's lineup over the edge is Bregman. And it's the one move when I look around and you're looking at the talent with the situation, it fits. And I'll tell you, Rock, I don't think Bregman's too prideful to move over. I think it's about pay me my value. You value me, I'll go play second base, but you gotta pay up. The short-term deals, if he's not, then you mentioned earlier the Windy City going to Chicago. I could see that. But if we're looking at it at a fit, and Alex Cora knowing Bregman, the relationship that they have, it just seems like it'd be a really good move. And I think that people underrate just how good Alex Bregman is. And just because it's a different scenario, I think we're going to see a really good production from him. And the one thing I saw a comment here, we got to move on to the final thing and get ready to wrap up. But Adit, you asked about this. Would you offer, if you were Mike Elias, offer this deal? Unfortunately, Bregman to me is not an option, and only for this. Mm-hmm. If the Orioles didn't have Jackson Holliday or Jordan Westberg, 1,000% I am getting Bregman. I'm going and getting him. He would have been my priority over the other free agents in a heartbeat. I love what he brings as a player. But if you're committing to Jackson Holliday, which I am all about, all on board, he's got to play. Jordan Westberg's an all-star. He's got to play. Gunnar Henderson's your shortstop, all-star, MVP caliber player. He's got to play. There's just not a space for Bregman in that infield. But if Jackson wasn't here, Jordan wasn't here, then that would have been priority number one for me, Alex Bregman making his way to Baltimore. So I know we went a little bit over on that.
It's all right.
But got fired up. But I know we've been running around a little bit. But so for time's sake, should we move on to burner 4 real quick?
We can. We can absolutely move on to burner 4. I'll just say if Bregman goes to Boston, trash cans beware. That's all I got to say.
Oh, goodness.
I'm saying.
Is that terrible joke, bro?
It was just him and Cora, back at it again. It's, good things happen when they're together, right? Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's move on to burner 4.
Give that a D minus.
What? That was, I'm just saying, just putting it out there.
Burner 4, the one that you wanted to just have over with the second you talked about it.
People don't forget, just like when that kid peed his pants in Superbad. People don't forget, Greg. It's how it is. Burner 4, we're going to talk about, is Ichiro Suzuki a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer? And again, I tried to do this in the beginning. You guys shut me down.
Yeah, do you want to do it now?
Yes.
This is the time to do it.
Can we unanimously agree? 3, 2, 1. Yes. Boom. Ichiro is, one of the greatest to do it. I mean, growing up and watching the guy, all the intangibles in the field, his speed was unmatched, and his ability to get on base, incredible. There's no doubt in my mind that Ichiro should be a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer. All he's given to the game, all he's done, there's no argument for me, but that doesn't mean, Rip, that there's not an argument for others that are out there. And why is that?
So the reason why with this situation is because people are trying to value Ichiro's time before coming to the U.S. to play in Major League Baseball, where he was a legend over in Japan, right? So keep in mind, Ichiro came to the U.S. in 2001, his first year at age 27. That was his rookie season. So people are trying to argue, well, his big league numbers, well, are they worthy of him? And honestly, yes, because he still was able to go out there and put up Hall of Fame type of caliber numbers. But we are in a different day and age where people value the big ball, the home runs, the extra base hits, and all of that more. And Ichiro's style wasn't for that. Now, I can tell you right now, Ichiro could, if you wanted to, if you ever watched Ichiro Suzuki take batting practice, the dude could launch him into the top decks with ease if he wanted to. But his style was, I'm going to stay true to myself because why? I'm going to get on base, I'm going to find a way on, and I'm going to find a way to score. That's his thing. His first 10 years in the big leagues, I would rival that with any pure hitter. Do you guys, every single year, this is the crazy thing. 10 years, his first 10 years in the big leagues from age 27 to age 36. Okay. 10 All-Star game appearances, 10 gold gloves, and every single year, 10 straight years of 200 plus hits. And last year in MLB, we only saw 5 200 hit seasons combined. And Luis Ariz did it twice. So only 3 other players did it. Ichiro for 10 straight seasons eclipsed 200. And for me, I don't know if we're going to see a player do what Ichiro did in this day and age ever again. So that's my take with Ichiro. I think you see greatness, you watch greatness. Ichiro is the definition of greatness for his time in the big leagues.
Listen, if you want to, if this was another type of player, if this was someone who came over into the big leagues, put up 5 or 6 good years, and then you're like, well, he was really good over in Japan, you have to take that, then I understand an argument. This guy still played. He came over to the bigs in 2001 at age 27. He still technically played through 2019. Now, those final few years, he was just kind of taking it bats here and there. But the first 11 years, unreal. Legitimately one of the best hitters we have ever seen. And I'm not, like you said, Rip, it wasn't because, he was going to hit the cover off the ball. He could if he wanted to, but he was going to sit there. I mean, some of the hitting 350, 372, 351, 352 over courses of 160 plus games. You know, this guy, everywhere you look, 200 hit seasons were off seasons for him. That was a down year. In 2004, he had 262 hits. 162 games, 262 hits. I mean,
you know, the other thing, Zach, to add on to that,
yeah,
when people were saying about making the jump to the U.S., his first year in the U.S. making the jump, he was the rookie of the year and the MVP.
Also, I was
First
going
year.
to bring that up. His what would this be? In his first 9 years, he only did not receive an MVP vote once. 1 year. He received MVP votes in every single year, including, like you said, winning MVP his rookie year. I mean, I understand people want to be like, if you want to argue the hit record, go for it. You know, I think that's got a valid argument, whatever. If you want to argue if he's a unanimous Hall of Famer or not, I don't know what to tell you. This dude is if it's going to be someone, if someone's going to be unanimous, it has to be Ichiro. You know, it's like this stuff. It's just like, I don't see a logical way if you are voting for the Hall of Fame in Major League Baseball that you see Ichiro Suzuki on the ballot and you're thinking, not this year. It would be mind-boggling if someone did that.
I agree. And if he goes in unanimously, he'll be the second player to ever do it behind Mariano Rivera. So it will be Ichiro, Mariano
Ken Griffey
Rivera.
one off is the dumbest thing ever, by the way.
It's crazy. And I believe Jeter was one off as well, but Orioles fans have their opinion on him. Understandable. Yeah. I knew you would be. I knew you would
Rock, the other part I wanted to just mention real quickly is because people look at it and go, wait, well, like OPS, it's not as high of an OPS because everyone's looking at that. It was a different day and age when they played. But here's another thing, by the way, that's undervalued. You guys heard the phrase when I had Buck on and we were talking, the phrase post up. You got to learn how to post up in the bigs. That means for a full 162, you can be depended on. You can be counted on for every single game. Ichiro in the first 11 years of his career, first 12 years, the least amount of games he played was 146. That was one time. Every other year, he never played less than 157 games. So talk about a guy that was in it, posted up, day in, day out. You knew what you got. He didn't sit out. He was there for his team every single night. I think that's undervalued, especially in today's day and age. And Ichiro, Rick, I saw the comment. He transformed the way that people view Japanese ball players coming over as well. He really did. Change the game.
Yeah, he really did, Rip. And you have to wonder if, the writers are not just his stats overall, but are going to look at season by season, team by team. When he left the Mariners, how there was kind of a decline throughout the rest of it. And a decline, I'm saying that in the best way possible because of how well he performed when he was in Seattle. So they're going to factor all that in. Voting is such I don't even know. It's very unpredictable. It's confusing at times. And you have to wonder, you sit there and you're like, why the hell didn't that guy get voted in? Or why the hell did that guy not get, a unanimous amount of votes? It's like, it's bound to happen. But I think we're all in agreement. I hope he gets in unanimously. I think he should be in unanimously. And, that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. So there we go. But yeah, man, it's going to be shut up, Zach. I know you want to say something stupid, but you do. You always want to say something stupid. You're a stupid idiot.
Me?
Yeah. Anything else pressing that we would like to talk about? I think we covered it all, man. I think we, great show, about an hour long. That's what we want to keep it at. I saw Brooks giving us shit for not drinking. Brooks, I'm doing, I know I don't need to tell everybody.
Well, no, he has no excuse. He's just saying dry January. I don't think my body could physically hold alcohol right now.
I'll go take care of business here in a moment, but you guys got to get ready for a very impactful weekend.
Yes. Very impactful weekend. Very. So on that note,
talk about it more tomorrow on the regular show.
Yeah, which I won't be on, and that's how the people like it. So, is what it is. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this edition of a Hot Stove Happy Hour presented by the Ryan Ripken Show. Have a great night. Enjoy, and we will see you next Wednesday. Same time, same place, same three idiots talking baseball.
Well, you know what? Also, make sure you like and subscribe on the way out. Monday and Thursday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we got a whole lot planned for this baseball season, and maybe some more or less of Rocco DeSangro. But we appreciate you guys. Have a day. Have a night. Rocco, send us home.
Have a weekend. Ruck Faco.
Well,
What a way to